Hi, you are watching Revenge of Reddit. My fiancée wanted a break so she could gain some experience. But when she found out that I was seeing someone else, she called me a traitor. I always thought my relationship with Camila was strong. We had been together for 6 years and had already set the date for our wedding, which was scheduled for 6 months from now. I was 26 years old, and she was 25. Camila always reminded me that I was her first serious boyfriend, her first everything, and I was always patient with her insecurities, and with her way of being. I never saw it as a problem because I loved her, and over time I got used to her mood swings and what she needed from the relationship. We had moved in together almost 2 years ago, and although we had our differences, we always managed to resolve them, or at least that's what I thought. What I didn't see coming was that, 6 months before the wedding, Camila would come to me with the idea that we needed a break. Camila had a group of friends with whom she talked about everything. I didn't have a problem with them, although I knew that some of them didn't have the best perspective on relationships. They were the kind of people who saw boyfriends as obstacles to their social lives and who believed that every woman needed to live more before committing. Camila started telling me that lately she had been thinking a lot about us and our future. She told me that our relationship was beautiful, that I was the best man she had ever met, that she had no doubts that she wanted to marry me, but there's always a but. She said that since she had only been with me, she felt she lacked experience, that it wasn't fair to me to marry someone who had never experienced more than a single relationship. I don't want to someday regret not having lived enough. I don't want us to end up like other couples who get bored and end badly, she told me. That sentence annoyed me, but I tried to stay calm. What do you mean by living enough? I asked. Camila didn't answer immediately. She seemed to be searching for the right words to make it sound logical. Don't get me wrong, I love you, but I feel like I need to know more, to explore more. If I marry you without having done that, what happens if in the future I realize something was missing? I want to be completely sure that you're the only person I want to spend the rest of my life with. The first thing that came to mind was that this was a terrible excuse. 6 years together, living under the same roof, planning our wedding, and suddenly she felt like she hadn't lived enough? And where did you get this idea? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Valeria did it with her boyfriend. They took a break before getting married, and afterward their relationship was much better. That made me laugh sarcastically. Valeria? The same one who cheated on her boyfriend? Camila rolled her eyes, as if I were jumping to meaningless conclusions. That had nothing to do with the break. What they did was take some time. Each one lived what they needed to live, and when they came back, they were more certain of their love. Camila, that relationship ended because Valeria got involved with another guy, I clarified. But that wasn't because of the break. She wasn't sure of her feelings. But I am. I just want to do this right. I want to know I'm not rushing. Her tone of voice was changing. She no longer seemed to want a conversation but to convince me. I couldn't believe it. 6 years together, our whole life built up. And now she was telling me she wanted to explore without consequences. So, what you want is to go out with others before marrying me. Is that it? Camila got upset when I put it in those terms. Don't see it like that. It's not about being with others. It's about learning more about myself. This isn't just for me. It's for both of us. When I come back, I'll be a better woman for you. That's when I realized she didn't see anything wrong with what she was saying. For Camila, this was something completely normal, something that would strengthen our relationship. I don't need this, Camila. I know what I want. I don't see the need for a break if we're supposed to love each other. That was enough for her attitude to completely change. She went from trying to convince me to being upset because she wasn't getting what she wanted. She stopped talking sweetly and started accusing me. I don't understand why you're being so closed off. I'm not asking for anything bad. You're not even trying to understand it. I don't understand it because it doesn't make sense. That's when the real tantrum began. First, she tried to speak more forcefully, as if her insistence would change my mind. When she saw I wouldn't give in, she became serious, crossed her arms, and looked at me as if I were the villain of the story. I thought you loved me, but if you can't even try to understand my point of view, I see that you don't. I stayed quiet. I didn't feel like arguing anymore because this wasn't a real conversation. It was her wanting to impose her idea, regardless of how I felt. After an hour of the same thing, I got tired. Look, do what you want, I said, fed up. Camilla's face lit up. To her, that meant she had won. I promise you that after this, we'll be better than ever. But before she continued, I made something clear. If you want a break, do it. But in the meantime, I don't want you in the house. That caught her by surprise. What do you mean? If we're going to do this, I'd rather you stay with someone else. Doesn't it make sense that we shouldn't keep living together if you want a break? For a moment, she seemed unsure, but her need to get her way was stronger. Fine. I'll stay at Valeria's house. And just like that, Camilla packed her bags and left. When she closed the door, I stayed sitting on the couch, not knowing what to think. What the hell had just happened? The woman I was going to marry had just left happily, believing this was the best thing for us. When Camilla closed the door behind her, I knew she wasn't coming back the way she thought. She believed this was just a simple break, an experiment to strengthen our relationship. But I already understood this was the end. There was no explosive fight, no insults, no tearful farewell. Just her absurd certainty that, after living more, we would somehow be better than ever. I sat on the couch for a long while, not knowing what to do. I wasn't angry, at least, not at that moment. What I felt was emptiness, a sense of disbelief. 6 years together, a wedding in 6 months, and suddenly everything collapsed because Camilla had decided she needed more experience. That very night, I opened my computer and canceled the reservation for the wedding venue. There was no point in waiting. I wasn't going to sit around believing this would fix itself magically. The next day, I talked to my friends. I told them what had happened, and they all agreed it was madness. Some asked if I was sure the wedding wouldn't happen, as if this was just a temporary tantrum. But I was clear. I wasn't going to marry someone who treated our relationship like something that could be paused, as if it were a game. Then I spoke with my family. I didn't want them asking unnecessary questions, or trying to talk to her, to hear her side of the story. I asked them not to interfere, not to contact her, or try to convince her of anything. My mother was surprised, because although she never had problems with Camilla, she never considered her someone close either. My father just nodded and told me to do what I thought was right. Since Camilla had never made much effort to have a close relationship with them, no one tried to step in. The first days were the hardest. I woke up out of habit, reaching for her in bed, only to remember she wasn't there anymore. The house felt empty, silent. I tried to distract myself with work. But every time I saw the date on the calendar, reality hit me again. We were supposed to get married in 6 months. Now, I was alone. For almost 2 weeks, I didn't want to know anything about her. And the strangest part was that Camilla didn't try to contact me either. There were no calls, no messages, nothing. Just silence. But my friends, even though they tried to avoid it, gave me little updates without me asking. They told me they'd seen her going out with her friends, spending her time at parties, meeting new people. I didn't ask, but the words stuck in my head like needles. When my best friend saw me sinking into that routine, he decided enough was enough. He convinced me to go out with him and some friends to a bar. I didn't feel like it, but I also didn't want to stay home replaying everything in my head. It was that night that I met Mariana. Mariana was a friend of one of my buddies, someone I had seen a couple of times at gatherings but had never really spoken to. From the first moment, I realized she was different. While the rest talked aimlessly about random things, she had the ability to hold a conversation without it feeling forced. She asked me questions, but they weren't uncomfortable or with hidden intentions. And the strangest thing was that, for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel trapped in sadness. Nothing happened that night, but from then on, Mariana started showing up more often at our group gatherings. At every outing, we talked more, shared more. She wasn't like Camila, and I don't just mean in comparison. Her way of being was completely different. Mariana knew how to take initiative, to suggest plans, to ask what I wanted to do. Camila, on the other hand, always waited for me to decide everything. And if she didn't like something, she'd get upset, but she never proposed alternatives. There was something about Mariana that made me feel calm. I didn't have to measure my words. I didn't have to worry about whether she would get angry or make a scene over anything. I could be myself without feeling like I was walking on eggshells. Over time, we started going out alone. It wasn't anything serious, just two people enjoying each other's company. But Mariana knew my whole situation. She never tried to rush me or pressure me. She was simply there, and that was something I had never felt with Camila. There came a moment when everything became even clearer to me. Mariana invited me to dinner and took me to a restaurant she liked. But when we arrived, the place was packed, and there were no tables available. Automatically, my body tensed up. I was ready for the drama, for complaints to the waiters, for the frustration of not being able to get in, and the hours of bad mood that would follow. Because that's exactly how it would have been with Camila. But Mariana simply shrugged, smiled, and said, "I should have made a reservation earlier. Let's go somewhere else. I know a quieter place." She didn't get upset. She didn't make a scene. She didn't blame anyone. She just looked for another solution, and we moved on. That night, when I got home, I realized that for years I had gotten used to living in fear that my partner would cause a scene over anything. I always had to be on guard, anticipating problems, avoiding conflicts. With Mariana, that weight disappeared. Things were moving along well until Camila decided to come back. It was a Saturday afternoon when I heard the pounding on the door, not knocking, not ringing the bell pounding. I went to open it, and there she was, her eyes blazing and her face full of fury. "They told me you're seeing someone else." I wasn't surprised, but I didn't have the patience for a scene. I crossed my arms and looked at her without saying anything. "Is it true? Did you replace me with someone else?" "Are you seriously asking me that?" I answered calmly. "If you loved me, you wouldn't be with another woman," she shouted. That made me laugh dryly. "Camila, this whole thing was your idea. You wanted the break. You decided you needed more experience before getting married. And now it turns out I was the only one who was supposed to wait?" She had no answer for that. She just stared at me with frustration, her mouth half open, but saying nothing. "You've been going out with whoever you wanted these past months," I continued. "Why are you so upset that I'm doing the same?" "Because it's not the same. This was something I had to do," she yelled. "Of course it's the same. You wanted to live more before getting married, right? Well, I kept living my life, too." There was a long silence. She stood there with clenched fists and eyes full of rage, but without knowing what else to say. Finally, with no other option, she turned on her heels and left. I closed the door without another word. I didn't feel joy or relief, just confirmation of what I already knew, that Camila really thought she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. But for the first time in years, those consequences were no longer my problem. A few days passed after Camila's furious visit. I kept living my life, focusing on work, my friends, and the peace I had found with Mariana. We weren't officially dating yet, but every time we spent time together, I realized more and more the difference between what I had before and what I had now. I didn't expect to see Camila again so soon, but one afternoon, while I was at home, I heard the sound of a suitcase rolling down the hallway. I got up, frowning, and when I opened the door, there she was, standing with her luggage and a satisfied smile, as if everything had gone back to normal. "Well, the craziness is over," she said cheerfully. "I'm ready." I stayed in the doorway, not moving. "Ready for what?" She looked at me as if I were an idiot. "To continue our relationship, obviously. We have to hurry. There are only 3 months left until the wedding, and there's so much to do." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe what she was saying. "Camila, there is no wedding." Her expression changed instantly. "What are you talking about?" "I canceled it the very day you left," I told her. Her smile vanished. "But why would you do that?" "Because our relationship ended the moment you decided you wanted a break to explore more." She dropped her suitcase and glared at me furiously. "That didn't mean we were breaking up. It was to make our relationship better." I shook my head. "There's nothing to improve. It's over. No wedding. No us." She tried to step inside the house, but I blocked the door with my arm. "Camila, this isn't your home. You can't walk in like nothing happened." "You're a traitor. You promised me we'd be together forever," she screamed. "No, you were the one who decided you needed to go out with other people before getting married. I just accepted what you wanted and moved on with my life." Her rage shifted into desperation. "You can't do this to me. 6 years together. You can't throw it all away. It was just a break. Camila, you're the one who threw everything away." "Please, I don't want to lose you," she started crying. "It was only a break. That doesn't change what we feel for each other." "It does for me," I said firmly. "There's nothing here anymore, Camila." Her desperation turned into begging. "I know you're with the other woman. Tell me it doesn't mean anything. Tell me it was just out of spite. Tell me you love me." I stayed silent. "I can't tell you that, because it's not true." She looked at me with wide eyes, breathing heavily. She knew she had no more arguments. Her tantrum hadn't worked, and neither had her pleas. She picked up her suitcase again and left without another word. But that wasn't the end of it. What came next were social media posts about how horrible I was. Camila wrote passive-aggressive messages about the man I had become. I thought I had the best man in the world, but I was wrong. Sometimes people change and disappoint us when we least expect it. Imagine giving everything up for someone, only for them to replace you with another when you need them the most. She never mentioned my name, but everyone knew who she was talking about. Then the rumors began. Camila told people that I had left her for Mariana, that the wedding had been canceled because I had turned into a womanizer, that I had changed because of my new girlfriend. The funny thing was that while she tried to destroy my image, more and more things came out about her. A couple of friends told me Camila hadn't just been exploring her independence, but actually dating several guys. There was even a story about her at a party, disappearing into a room with someone and coming out an hour later. I didn't care what she did with her life, but the hypocrisy bothered me. She could go out with whoever she wanted, but when I did the same, I was a traitor. The worst came when she tried to involve my family in all this. She contacted my parents, trying to get them on her side. "I never wanted this. Your son changed. He left me for another woman without caring about everything we built together," she complained. But my mother was very clear with her. "You left first, Camila. You can't complain that he moved on." After that, she tried sending messages to my sisters, but they already knew the story and didn't respond. It didn't work. One day, Mariana told me something that made me realize how far Camilla had gone. I ran into Camilla at a cafe, Mariana told me calmly. She was with a group of friends. When she saw me, they all came to my table and started making passive-aggressive comments. What did they say? I asked. Things like, poor girl, she probably thinks he really loves her. Some men change so quickly. And I hope you enjoy what you took from someone else. I looked at her, worried. Did they do anything to you? No, they just tried to intimidate me. But it didn't work. Mariana said it with an impressive calm. She hadn't let herself be affected, hadn't fallen into Camilla's game. That's when I understood something else. Mariana was the complete opposite of Camilla. While one wallowed in her misery, the other simply kept living her life without the need for drama. After that, Camilla stopped trying. Maybe she realized her efforts weren't leading anywhere, or maybe she just got tired. The last I heard of her was that she was still partying and seeing different guys every week. Meanwhile, I continued with Mariana. We didn't rush anything. We simply enjoyed our time together without pressure, without unnecessary conflicts. If there's something I learned from all this, it's that sometimes routine blinds us. For years, I thought what I had with Camilla was normal, that her way of being was just something I had to live with. I didn't realize what it really was until the break forced me to see it from the outside. If Camilla had never asked for that pause, maybe I would have stayed with her, marrying someone who was never going to change, someone who would always put her own desires above the relationship. So, ironically, I have to thank her for the idea of a break. Because in the end, it was the best thing that could have happened. It helped me realize that the best thing for me was to walk away from her.